talking about your emotions is not a lack of masculinity. Personally, I believe you're leaning into masculinity because you're being stronger by being vulnerable.
If anybody has seen Inside Out, kids start with joy, sadness, anger, fear. They don't understand more complex emotions like reverence or respect.
Women couldn't get bank accounts and credit cards until 1972. The 1900s, that was so long ago. Not really.
No.
That's your mom. Dudes is out here squaring up on women. And so I don't call it a lack of masculinity, even though that could be said. I call it men out here being punks.
Mm-hmm.
Some punk ABs.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm looking at. So from that argument, I kind of agree with them. We need to be raising men from that standpoint.
Yeah.
But not this idea of basically gender roles,
Yeah.
these stagnant gender roles that this is what men do. Because also what he's subscribing to is not talking. And I'm sorry, that's the hallmark of men having pent up rage and anger that's going to come out somehow. You got to talk about your emotions.
Yeah.
Just talking about your emotions is not a lack of masculinity. Personally, I believe you're leaning into masculinity because you're being stronger by being vulnerable. That's what I believe. And anybody who doesn't agree with it, hey, we can take to the street. I ain't got no problem with that. I've been willing to catch fades right and left all my life. So that's just what I believe. But yeah, so he had some toxic things that he kind of said, but more importantly, what I took away from it is let your kid be a kid.
Let your kid be a kid. Yeah.
It wasn't just that he's got to be the man of the house. It was his oldest said, hey, don't mess up. And now he spreads it on down the line. No, don't make him a third parent.
No, that also made me cringe a little bit because he didn't say don't mess up. His son is telling his siblings, hey, don't make dad mad.
Yeah, you're right.
And that means your children are afraid of you.
Yeah, because that's what I used to say to y'all.
They don't respect you. They don't respect you. They're afraid of you. And
you can have both respect and fear.
Well, no, because kids, it takes a while to develop more complex emotions. If anybody has seen Inside Out, you know, kids start with joy, sadness, anger, fear.
Mm-hmm.
They don't understand more complex emotions like reverence or respect or things like that. So, yeah, so to a certain extent, when they're young, they should fear the repercussions of their actions, but they shouldn't at 15 still be afraid of you. They should respect you as their parent. They shouldn't be, hey, don't make dad mad. It wasn't, hey, your actions are not, they're not exemplary right now. Like, right? Like your actions are going to lead to some tough consequences. That wasn't what he said. What he said was, don't make dad mad.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's less about the consequences of their actions and more about not the consequence of making you mad.
Mm-hmm.
And so are you really teaching them to be good people, or are you teaching them just to fear your response to their actions?
Or fall in line. And I think that that's both of us up here talking about parenting when we're not parents, but
we're somebody's kids. And so we can tell you from that perspective. That's what I always say. I'm not a parent, but I'm somebody's child. So that I can always tell you from the perspective of being someone's child what I'm hearing from your kid.
Right. And so, because a lot of times parents don't really talk to their kids.
Right.
Right.
And it's clear that he does not.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Well, the things that he says is not, I mean, I didn't see any of the clips where he talks about emotional suppression, conflating masculinity with emotional suppression. I didn't see those clips.
Well, I don't think he directly says that. That's what I'm gathering from what he's saying, because his prism of what men are, he's very much my generation.
Yes.
We grew up in the 90s, right? So he's he's very much my generation, and he's from the South, right? So
Yeah.
he's very much, this is what a man is, this is what a man's supposed to be. And I think the evolution of men has changed. And a lot of men who want to hold on to those traditional forms of what masculinity is are fighting that. And that's the reason why you had this backlash of men out here really complaining, right? And this, one of his statements, one of his quotes is like, you can't even talk to women anymore. Like, you know, they're so mad, they're so angry. Yeah, because part of your traditional masculinity has been suppressing women.
Yes.
Women couldn't get bank accounts and credit cards until 1972.
Yes.
Now, for our Gen Z people out there, they're like, the 1900s, that was so long ago. Not really.
No.
That's your mom.
Yeah.
That's your mom.
Yeah.
You know, or if it's not your mom, that's your grandma.
Right.
It's an auntie.
Yeah.
It's one generation behind you. That's how, it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah. And what you're telling their other fully capable parent is, I trust a 15-year-old
right
to protect this house more than I trust their very capable parent.
Yeah, because like, okay, he made a point of saying, hey, look, somebody's got to protect that house because nobody cares about your family, your money if somebody want to run up in your crib. And I get it.
Yes.
I get it. And there's nothing wrong by saying, hey, man, just make sure certain things in the house are secure.
Yeah.
You know, just like, hey, you take out the trash, make sure when you come back in, lock the door, make sure, you know, that.
Yeah.
But also, you have a partner.
Yes.
If you really want to, self-defense classes, gun training, like it doesn't have to be put on your 15-year-old son, because at one point he wasn't 15. At one point he was 8, 9, 10. You were going to do acting. You've been doing acting.
Yeah.
We first recognized you in Green Mile when you was Papa Doc. Okay. And then the horrible portrayal of Tupac and Notorious. But that's okay, because you Black Captain America now. But you've been acting for over 20 years before you had a son. So there was a time where he was a little guy. He couldn't be the man of the house.
Right.
So why can't the woman be the protector of the home?
I mean, she has been. Like, let's be honest. Like, every time you leave, the person in charge is their mother. And she has been taking care of that. Yeah, if you want to give your child some responsibilities around the house, like, hey, it's your job to make sure the door's locked. Fine. That's perfectly fine. But also recognize there's a perfectly capable adult in that house that does not need protecting from her child.
Join the conversation and follow the Unsolicited Perspectives podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your audio podcasts.